Okay, so this is from Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Emile, page 410 to 411. The idea is that life is short because we make it so. Uh, Not knowing how to employ it, they complain of the rapidity of time, and I see that it flows too slowly for their taste. Always occupied with the goal turned toward which they are straining, they regard with regret the interval separating them from that goal. None wants to live today. Boredom, burdensome. If there is a single one among you who knows how to temper his desires so that he never wishes for time to pass, he will not regard life as too short. To live and enjoy to live and enjoy will be the same thing for him. And even if he were to die young, he would die full with days. Yeah. Yeah, what do you think about that?
I mean, more simple English, is he like saying that we waste a lot of time not being present
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
life? So once we want to do that, it feels like we shorter because we did waste a lot of time
Yeah. Yeah,
already.
we're always preoccupied with our goal. We're always straining toward a goal, he said. And we regard with regret the interval separating us from that goal and one goal to the next. Yeah, always thinking of the future or the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of could see that because when you're more mindful or present, just time kind of feels slower because you're not having those kinds of distractions.
Yeah. Yeah, after reading this passage, I often have thought of just, yeah, kind of being in the present and enjoying your life. Now, some of these might sound like cliches because they kind of maybe are sometimes in our culture now, but I think they're good things. I'm reminded of something I heard on a podcast, I think, about Dostoevsky and how he had read somewhere that, yeah, the one guaranteed immortality is to totally live in the present and to not concern yourself with anything else. In fact, as we're talking, I'm starting to feel like my mind is clearing a little bit and I am, yeah, less straining towards what I could say, trying to think forward or something.
Yeah, like I'm thinking of that little clip I sent you of Mike Tyson talking to that girl reporter,
Yeah,
where he was saying that like the concern for legacy is kind of just ego and a waste of the time, I guess.
yeah. And he
Uh,
specifically pointed out it's a concept that people just sort of made up to sort of maybe embiggen themselves or to, yeah, out of ego. And there's an implication where he's saying this is just something that's people talk about. This is not real. And then, of course, he comedically goes into the harsh reality of, you know, from dust you come, to dust you will go, to like this little girl who's like
yeah,
trying to have like a peppy podcast kind of
yeah,
talking about what people with those types of in those types of interviews talk about.
and then it had like those the editors added laser beams out of his eye to
Oh, I didn't see
emphasize his
that.
intensity in the
Yeah.
video.
Yeah, but I thought that, yeah, that
Yeah,
was very funny. But
yeah.
seriously, I mean, yeah. Do you ever feel like you live in the present, that you truly
Uh,
enjoy just the flow of your consciousness in your life?
I feel I get those moments, especially when I'm outside and
Yeah.
just noticing nature and like trees and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, one thing I've kind of realized is like I have anxiety and I'm just when it's bad, I'm just living a lot in the future, and that's just kind of a waste of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think anxiety is a future emotion. It
Hmm.
is nervousness, etc., about something that you're thinking about will happen or might happen. Yeah, so in a way, anxiety is almost completely unnecessary, although maybe a little bit of it does help you. Maybe if you're too complacent, yeah, you don't want to be completely positive in emotion. Some types of negative emotion do help you to prepare for things, to get things done ahead of time, and that's probably a good thing. But yeah, in terms of happiness and unhappiness, yeah. Yeah, Rousseau has a lot of good to say, I think. I think one of my favorite quotes from his I put up on my social media, which was, "It is 100 times harder to appear to be happy than it is to actually be happy." Like to actually be happy, uh, more like requires lack of complexity, to have a simple life, to be contented and to share things with loved ones in a sort of natural setting. Uh, he writes that quote when he's uh, in a part of the book where the setting is verdant, is bucolic, the countryside living, simple living, not living in the hated city of as his telling is. Um,
Yeah, that makes sense because you're like crafting an image for other people.
yeah, yeah,
So you're
and you're caught up in that
preoccupied.
image, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're just preoccupied with what other people think of you.
Yeah,
And that's going to make you unhappy because, yeah, you'll just be worried or about what looks wrong and things like that.
yeah.
Uh,
And the thing is, you think that you have there's this implied belief that you have that that will make you happy, and this is why you're not happy, because you don't have those things on the outside, and you're not getting this praise or your
mhm.
recognition, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big problem with social media. Like, again.
Yeah. Well, I heard a podcast with Andrew Huberman, they talking about Floyd Mayweather and how he like brings out all these like watches that are like 20,000, $30,000 and things. And Huberman interjected, uh, yeah, he's creating envy in viewers, you know. That's how he's drumming up interest for his fights. He's playing a heel and yeah, making people envious. Yeah, there's a lot of social games like that. And and yeah, Rousseau is obviously and famously uh sort of cautioning people to not, if you want to be happy or to be in touch with the truth, to be very careful about how much you get involved with, or how much value you place on social opinions. But yeah, I mean, I am afraid of death, but yeah, I think often, you know, and with you, I often use the idea of animals dying, and it seems like they know how to die, you know, and then I think humans can know how to die. It's just more like we forgot, or we take ourselves out of that way. Do you remember, didn't you see on Chimp Empire the uh the documentary that shows up close and personal all those that troop of chimps in Africa, and one of them is the alpha male, and he ends up becoming dethroned and kind of ruined and lame. His leg is hurt or something, and he gets fatal, it's, I guess it's a mortal wound or something, at some point that he gets, and he basically goes off by himself and kind of sits in a relatively comfortable spot, I guess, and covers himself with leaves and passes away. It's
Yeah, I
pretty
think his
remarkable.
yeah, I think that was Jackson. I think that was his
Yeah,
name.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Mm,
I just, yeah, think about
mm.
how animals just know it's time to go. And
Yeah, and I kind of find that impressive because when I think about that, I'm thinking of how it would feel. That's my concern.
what do you
But
mean?
like, will it feel bad or like, will it, yeah, just how it will go. So
What do you mean physically bad or just everything?
yeah, everything about it, physically, mentally, emotionally.
I think a lot of what I'm thinking about is not what it feels, but why it might
Mhm,
feel like we're talking about opinions and things versus truth,
mhm,
and
mhm,
why it might feel bad unnecessarily.
mhm,
And maybe the idea is unlike the chimp or the dog or something, we are fighting it. We are
mhm,
questioning it. We are thinking of what we could experience or have were we to go on living instead of
mhm,
dying in 5 minutes,
mhm,
you know? And I think that's probably what the chimp and the dog, et cetera, are not doing.
mhm,
And that's why they can do that. They're not
mhm,
just like we were talking about with the supposed secret to happiness, or even maybe calling it immortality, is being in this moment right now, every moment of your life up until the moment you do start to become dust, like in the Mike Tyson quote, and never worrying about your legacy or all those other supposedly, you know, purely chimerical concepts that people just dream up
mhm,
in, you know, their attempt to distract themselves from reality and including death. But yeah, I liked his yeah, I often, think about religion and different religions and different have different ideas of death and is there an afterlife and I think the idea of an afterlife and, you know, punishment or reward afterwards is very can be very useful in many different ways, useful on a society-wide level, useful for contemplation, but also I do find some, I don't know if the word is comfort, but it's more like peace or something like that when people like Tyson did talk about us just being dust. And I think of even in the Bible when it says that to Adam and Eve, we're from dust, we become dust. And I know that there's some kind of primitive metaphysics there too, probably, but there's a truth there to that, right? I mean, we
mhm,
definitely do become constituent elements at some point. We just, devolve into that but yeah, I find some sort of, yeah, do you not find some sort of comfort or, uh, I don't know, in acknowledging that reality, maybe? And I don't think, I wouldn't want someone to use that as an excuse for immorality or anything like that, or like to hedonism or something. For me, it doesn't imply that stuff, at least necessarily. Yeah, but I tend to think living a moral life and having the experiences that can bring about will make you happier too.
mhm. Well, yeah, I kind of find it comforting too, because I mostly think of it's kind of a return to simplicity again, with like kind of being just with nature, and there isn't any complexity to it. Nothing to concern yourself with like you often have to with life. So, uh,
Yeah,
yeah, thinking of that aspect and just uh, feels peaceful to me and
yeah,
reassuring.
yeah. So you're contrasting this type of simple spirituality with the supposed complexity of everyday life, which
Mm,
certainly this world, and according to Christianity, this fallen world, does have a lot of complexity and unnecessary complexity sometimes that people use to
mhm,
propagate their power or whatnot,
yeah,
to solidify their positions. But I do wonder if also there can be a sort of heaven on earth by, you know, like by an Epicurean kind of existence, by trying to not not let your life get too complex, to keeping it rather simple. But yeah, I was thinking of the sort of sometimes the history of Christianity with its intensely complex metaphysics and all this, sometimes all this torturing of the soul with thinking about all the nature of all these spirits and demons and everything. And again, I know sometimes in the right hands these can be salutary in some way, and pedagogical, but I think yeah, a lot of it is kind of yeah, unnecessary and leads you away from the simple facts of life for us as mortal beings who are trying to live decent lives and be relatively happy. I just can't, yeah, I just can't really imagine myself really getting into religion where it is not grounded in nature and reality, you know? If it gets too far away from nature and reality. I don't know, I have this sense or senses of that which draws me to it, you know. And I mean, I know we were born at some point. We know all about history that happened before we were born, and yet we never had any idea of it. People live whole full lives, 80, 100 years, decades or centuries or millennia before we ever knew about any of it. Where were we every day? The sun went up, sun went down, sun went up, sun went down for someone that lived 86 years and had all sorts of thoughts and development, everything, you know. And that was hundreds of years before I was born. But anyway, I digress a little bit. But, you know, yeah, I just can't. There's certain things about reality and about consciousness. Uh, I know I will die. I don't know. And I can see that other life forms are relatively okay with that. And I can see certain wise people throughout history and probably normal people who are not written about also, you know, kind of can accept that. My mom was telling me about my grandfather dying the other day. Did I tell you about this?
no.
I mean, he died 10 or 15 years ago, but yeah, he basically like he uh like he kind of knew it was going to happen, and so he like used the bathroom a lot before, and so he never had some sort of evacuation. Like I think some people when they die, they have some sort of bowel kind of
Mm-hmm.
evacuation. He never had that. And he
Hmm.
was clean. And that sort of is the way that he lived too. He was very like disciplined and kind of very independent and kind of considerate of others. But the day before he died, the night before he died, he told her, "My life is over." And then he passed away that night.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Yes, very dignified.
Yeah, yeah, and he was kind of dignified, kind of old school. But yeah, I don't know. Like I mean, some of it's certainly concern for my reputation or something, but for my image, but I don't know. But I do get a sense of just calm, just straight calm. It's not comfort exactly. It's calm thinking about yeah, what some kind of natural kind of nature and truthful religion, you know. Yeah. But yeah, and and like I keep saying, like I think various stories and certain kinds of wonderings, maybe, and maybe even beliefs can help get you closer to that. But I think a lot of stories, a lot of beliefs, a lot of opinions get us much farther away from that and start getting us into the realm of ego and distraction, and especially if you can incorporate other people into those ideas, it makes them seem more powerful, you know, and you're sort of creating this kingdom in everybody's imagination in the heavens or wherever, you know. And I think that, yeah, to me, the personification of like the worst life in this aspect is the first Chinese emperor. I forget his name, Huangdi or something like that, the Qin Emperor. But he's the one that made the. I think he made all the terracotta warriors, and he has this elaborate tomb with this river of mercury, and he tried men, and he kind of had like a totalitarian regime, um, and or I shouldn't say totalitarian. It's more like authoritarian. Totalitarian is a newer idea where they even control your thinking. But yeah, he basically could not accept his death and tried to live forever. And then when he couldn't live forever, he tried to guarantee that he would have this empire after his death too, with all these terracotta warriors and everything. And to me, that's like at least one paragon of or the epitome of just yeah, the opposite of dying naturally and simply, as a human being, he's trying to be a god. Seems desperate to me. But yeah, I guess I'm not that much into the glory and everything. But any last thoughts on this?
Uh, there's not so much. Let me continue off that. Like, I'm not really a big fan of the thought of embalming and all that.
I'm not
Uh,
either. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like, I'm fine. Just yeah, I don't. Yeah, it just seems unnecessary to me.
Yeah.
But
And it seems maybe superficial too. Like I remember when my stepdad died and this lady was talking about embalming him, and like I really didn't understand even the concept. Like we know he's dead and he will like decay. And are you talking about just delaying that process? I mean, it will happen anyway, but you're
yeah,
talking about putting chemicals inside of him so that should we unearth the grave, he will look more like we knew him in life. I mean, is that the
yeah,
idea? Like,
yeah,
I mean, it's just this idea of just I associate this person with the body, and if the body stays the same or is decays less, so changes less, then somehow I believe he is more like real or more like alive. So I don't know. It just seems like a artificial weirdness to support an obvious illusion. So it's just I don't know. It's almost a sickness to me.
Yeah. It's like to me it kind of seems more for just other people. So I would
Obviously,
maybe just want maybe the minimal just so that there's time for people to see me, but I don't want to be put in the dirt with this full embalming so that I could last as long as possible when I'm
yeah,
already beneath the dirt.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
yeah,
Yeah. And I'd read sort of hippie inspired types of books, or you could call them
yeah,
that, and sort of, Stranger in a Strange Land, where they even, so they don't waste this person, they celebrate the person, they actually eat the person when they die.
yeah,
So, and Michael Valentine Smith just talks about it as when you die, you are food. And it's
mm,
ridiculous to waste that, 150 pounds of meat.
mm,
Yeah. Okay. Well, anything else?
not so far.
But I really do think yeah, there is something about really the secret of life and enlightenment is in just in staying in the present and not being carried away by emotions and ideas and words.